episode of Starseed Activations. So today we have a co-host. Her name is Jody Powers, and she is going to be assisting us in asking different questions for the star people to answer. Beautiful. Welcome, Jody. Tell us a little something about yourself.
Thank you so much for having me on. This is so exciting. I started my spiritual journey after going through the dark night of the soul, like so many of us, in 2019. And I've been ascending, learning new things. And I bought your book.
Excellent. That's my ascension guide.
Yeah. And even not that long ago, I would think that this is just too much over the top, right? But I do quantum healing, hypnosis, and all of this stuff I'm seeing in real time with my own eyes, or I wouldn't believe it. So,
it's wonderful because, you know, even me reading the book, when I put the book in my hands, I feel like it's my own ascension guide. And so if I'm ever having a day where it just seems like a crummy day, or one of those days where you need a boost, and you just flip to a random page and you just allow the information to wash over you, it really does assist you in rebalancing your energy field, which is absolutely amazing. So, yes.
And the private reading, well, I consider it like a private reading that I got from you. It was a pre-interview interview, but really it was just so much fun. And, you know, you just pack so much information into an hour. And we talked about how this is like an encyclopedia. It's not a book.
Yeah.
This is a resource.
It is.
That you can digest a little bit at a time. But I wanted to, during that private reading, Tarek talked to me and said something about a snowflake.
Yeah.
And do you see that? This is my water that I activate and bless, and there's a snowflake on there. So I was like, oh God, I have to show Danielle.
I had no idea. They see everything. So when I do my one-on-one sessions with people, the star people see what's going on in your life and what you have in front of you and the things that they channel through. It's like they're watching you because they're in the room with you. And so it's just amazing.
Yeah, it really is amazing. Yep.
Definitely.
Wonderful.
I mean, I've had so many different experiences with them, and they even tell people which extrasensory abilities that they have an attunement to. And then it's always like an aha moment goes off in people's minds, and they're like, well, I've been doing that since I was a kid. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's my attunement. That's my ability. But the second that you become aware that that's your gift, it allows you to really grow and expand upon it, because then it's like, well, I've already been doing this since I was a kid. And me too. I've been highly intuitive since I was a kid, but you never really realize. You just think, oh, it's okay. It's just your intuition, right? Who knew that it was a form of channeling? So, which is beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah.
So I have questions. So about the Ascension Guide, right?
Yeah.
So I've been taking it a little bit at a time because it's so dense and amazing. So would you mind if we started with me just going through the first section, which is what is an Ascension Guide?
Sure.
And asking questions that way.
Yes.
All right, perfect.
So, go ahead. Do you want me to explain what an Ascension Guide is?
Sure. Yeah.
So I'll keep it very short. So an Ascension Guide, and many of us, if not all of us, starseeds are ascension guides to a degree, because what we do is we dive into the darkness. Many times we are the black sheep of the family. So we dive into that darkness, we break ourselves, and then we learn how to heal our lives. We learn how to heal our bodies. We learn how to heal the local communities. We see a problem, then there's always a reaction. We have to react. And then we manifest a solution for all beings. And so that really is what it is. Many times the high frequency ascension guides, the knowledge bringers, we come and we download this knowledge from the source frequency, but many times it's guided to us by extraterrestrials. And so they give us all this wonderful ascension knowledge because we could take it, and it's kind of like they're showing me, it's like a ball. It's a ball of white light, but it's encoded with knowledge. And we could take this ball and we can cast it outwards into the simulation so that many people can see and recognize and realize that we are more than what we have been told. And so that truly is a blessing, because the second that you're fully aware and you're conscious and you've shifted your perception to such a degree in which it allows you to start seeing through the reality. Now, when you can recognize it, your internal circumstances, which is your feelings, your thoughts, your emotions, that radiates out of you and it changes the world that you see. That's power. Because when you start to recognize that if you want to see a brighter world, you don't have to go look to the outside world to make it brighter. You just have to change what's going on inside of you. The outside world is eventually going to shift, and it's going to frequency match to what's inside of you. And so the way it does that, it's not the spoon that bends, it's you that bend. And what that means is when you change your perception, now all of a sudden you see things more optimistically. And then the universe starts changing your frequency coding to allow you to be in the right place at the right time in order to experience a perception of living in a paradise. That's how this works. So you're the one who has to change. You're the one that has to release your density. When we go through the ascension process, it's also going to allow the primary individual to raise the density level to such a degree in which it allows for a crystallization of the biological form, which in turn is going to allow the individual access into the higher density ranges, which grants the user access higher and higher and higher into 5D frequency coding. 5D frequency coding is only the beginning, because when we start to dive into 5D frequencies, instantaneous manifestation is readily available in 4D frequencies. When we start to tune into 5D frequencies, that's heaven, that's bliss. Now, many times when the entire planetary species as a whole, the human consciousness grid, tunes into 5D, this happens because when a large number of the humans wake up, we say wake up, but it's really just raising your frequency into that crystallization, the star people are saying, it's eventually going to allow for the entire earth to raise into 5D frequency coding, which it kind of looks like an earth shift is occurring, because those soul forms that are not ready to do this density raise, it's the earth shifts into two different frequency bandwidths. One can be seen as a positive earth frequency. One can be seen as a destruction or just a more dense or slower earth frequency. So depending on where you want to go in your evolution, most of the times if people are 51% loving, caring, kind, they make it into the new earth. This is what the star people are saying.
Oh, okay. 51%.
51%, that's all it takes. It's very tiny. But that's another reason why the star seeds and the advanced light workers were sent here. We come so that we can be the light. And by advanced light workers, it just means that you've advanced your energetic grid to the degree in which you shine bright. People can usually feel your energy field when you've done the shadow work. When you walk in, you feel very open-hearted. We've all had the experience of being around someone who's very loving, caring, kind, and their energy just, it feels wonderful to be around. It's like you just know that you're around someone who you can feel safe with. Or many times the advanced healers on the planet, many times people come and they open up and give them the problems right away. And that's because there's a part of them that feels that frequency that makes them feel safe. So it's
wonderful.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Like your energy is amazing. It's beautiful, really beautiful. So in the first, can I read the first paragraph for anybody who hasn't in the book? This is like a little teaser.
Sure.
What is an ascension guide? It's a person in human form who reincarnated into the human experience in order to raise the consciousness of the planet and the people of the planet. They hold a higher frequency, thus projecting that frequency into the surrounding areas, like you just said. They usually come encoded to awaken to their life purpose or mission when they are needed most on the planet.
Yes.
So I highlighted they hold a higher frequency. Yes. Could you dumb down holding a higher frequency and what crystallization?
Sure. Means? So just imagine for 1 second. And what the star people are showing me is your density coding ring. When someone is sick, that means that their body is going into a density. It's slower in its frequency. So the atoms and molecules start to go slower. This is also what we see when we see things like cancers. The molecules, the cells start to expand because the frequency is going slower. Now, when someone's frequency is slower, usually the perception shifts and they don't move as much. So you may notice a sick person has to lay in bed until the frequency is raised, where they start to slowly start going out into the civilization more and more. When we start to speak about holding a higher frequency, many individuals who hold that higher frequency, they tend to be waking up in the morning and it's very rapid. It's very get up and go, go, go. And all of a sudden you don't realize, but many times they're on planes, they're going to different locations. They're going to these different places or sacred spaces because it raises the frequency more and more. So when we start to go inside and we start to do the shadow work, now the shadow work is releasing any traumas. So your traumas generates an energetic imprint, which are known as cycle repeat marks or trauma coding. And so that trauma makes it so that that experience or that range of emotions, it has to cycle again and again and again until you release the emotion imprint to that cycled trauma. And now what that looks like is, if you've ever seen someone who's in a really low frequency and that someone goes through the same experience over and over and over again until all of a sudden they release that experience. That's because they raised their frequency above that experience. So the process of crystallization is when the atoms and molecules inside of the physical form tend to raise their biological frequency to such a degree in which disease cannot exist. That is also known as the heavens in your terminology, because when an individual can shift the emotion coding now in the moment, it shall allow for a higher frequency of crystallization. When the body goes through a crystallization, it is going to allow more light to shine through the skin. When that process happens, it's going to allow more of the soul form access into the physical form, which shall allow the individual to seem happy, is what the star people are saying.
I wore pink, by the way. I was listening to
love it.
Yeah, one of your things saying, color and frequency and what it really makes a difference.
It does.
I'm gonna wear my bright pink.
You look beautiful in it. I love it.
Thank you. I'm shifting.
Yes.
Okay, so the next thing is, this is how 5D works. It's a frequency of pure love and oneness. What frequency are we in now? Are we close to shifting to 4? We're still stuck in 3?
That's the thing about the unity consciousness, is on this planet, we go all the way up to 6 and 7D. You wouldn't know it though. Some people are at 3D. Some people on the planet, the star people, saying there are some tribes that are removed from civilization. They see things in 2D. And so it's just a different way of perception. They see everything as one, as flat. It's just different the way their brains work compared to the rest of us. Now, when we start to recognize that some monks are doing daily meditations, they are accessing their slipstreams and they're going into the higher frequency ranges, which also allows a process of crystallization to occur inside of their heart chakras. Now, we have something known as the 0 point. Inside of the heart chakra, there are 4 chambers. Inside of the brain, there are also 4 hemispheres. All of these hemispheres are properly attuned to the Kundalini channels, which we have earth, air, fire, water. We look in the outside realms or the outside realities. Those 4 chambers can be seen reflect over and over again: winter, spring, summer, and fall. And so we can take a look at the number 4 and how it reflects from the inner worlds into the outer worlds. Now, when we start to come into cohesion, which is bringing all 4 together into unity consciousness, it's going to allow a process to unlock the gamma brainwaves. But there are higher ranges that also tune into higher density or dimensional realms. Depending on the perception, it's either going to be a density or a dimension. It just depends. It's a different way of looking at the simulation. When we start to come into cohesion, the 0 point inside of the heart chakra is just that space of neutrality. And inside the 0 point is connected into the slipstream. The slipstream connects your higher self, and it goes straight down the crown chakra all the way down into the heart. So when we start to hold neutrality, we start to align all of these synchronistic energetic frequencies. It allows us to energetically cast. So what this looks like is sending an emotion code. Every single emotion code is a manifestation in the physical reality, because if you wanted to, let's say I was just talking about this. If you wanted to buy a new car, how does the car feel when you sit in it? How does the steering wheel feel? When you touch something with your skin, that's a feeling. You have to feel it with your skin. When you're smelling something, you have to smell it. That's a feeling. It's an emotion code. Everything in the physical reality is an emotion code. Now, your biological form is taking all the different emotion codes and it's putting them all together so that you have this perception. This is how the human form is designed. Now, what I'm telling you is, if you are able to take whatever emotion codes that you wish to see, you're able to tune into that 0 point, and you're able to cast the emotion codes up to the higher self. The higher self is going to change your magnetism, which is going to allow you to manifest those emotion codes. Now, what does that look like? Let's say we took a vision board. Every single day you look at your vision board and you're imagining, you're visualizing, you're coming to peace. But what are you also doing? It's okay if it doesn't come, right? You're releasing resistance. Now, if we went and we dropped into a meditation and we felt the vision board, we don't realize this, but the way the energy flows in the physical form, it changes and shifts. So for example, let's say you picked up a green pen. Your body, your energy field knows that you are interacting with the color green. So a part of your energetic grid is going to flow differently. Now you pick up a blue pen. The second you pick up the blue pen, a different part of your energy field is going to become activated. Well, what happens if you make a manifestation board with all the things that you want and you're holding it? And you are imagining and visualizing all of the emotion codes from that vision board, and then you are dropping into the neutrality of the 0 point, and you are energetically casting that up into the higher self range. Now the higher self takes that information, because light is information, and it starts to change your energetic grids and reprogram your magnetism, which then allows all of those manifestations to come in your physical reality. Many individuals also have the dream walker ability, or there are even some people who are dream shamans. Now, the dream walker ability is the ability to become lucid during the dream time, which then in turn you program the dream time so that it is changing your energetic field at the higher self, which then in turn changes your biological field and allows you to manifest those dreams into the waking reality. This is real too, because we're going to recognize that night and day, the wake cycle, the sleep cycle is one being. It's one. So we always see them as being separate. It's not separate at all, because when we take the dream realms and we blend them and mix them in with the physical reality, it allows us to take complete dominion over our consciousness, is what the star people are saying.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so much information. Thank you so much for that, though.
Absolutely.
So you're saying use all of your senses.
Yes.
Using as many senses, and every single sense and every single thought is an emotion code.
All of it. And this is a reason why we see different doctors, and they're like, who is it? He's saying Joe Dispenza. Look at Joe Dispenza. He's telling you have to control the thoughts and emotions. Well, the way that the system works is like this. We have our binary codex frequency, our biological frequency. And so when the biological frequency is of a higher density, it puts your thought grid, which is how telepathy is formed. Just imagine all the thoughts on a wavelength. When we tune into a higher density, the wavelength of the thoughts are higher. So if we're really high, then we're going to tune into these thoughts, which is why the star people had me stop cursing. And all of my physically focused people, they're like, are you crazy? How do you just not curse? And they're like, because they're raising my density, which is allowing my thought forms to be of a higher density range. And so, you know, we've been going back and forth with this one, but I understand it because of it feels, but it feels very high frequency. And so now that I know what it feels like, it's like, okay, I'm going to try my hardest to not curse, right? Because now I understand what they're doing. And so it's not that we are meant to be perfect, because by no means am I perfect, but now I know what to shoot for. And so when we start making tiny changes and I refuse to interact with lower frequency material, which many of us do automatically. So many of us, we reach a high enough frequency and we're not going to go stomp around in an abandoned house. That is not the place for me, because that's a low frequency, right? So we take it from that perspective. So when you start to tune into higher frequency ranges, you're not going to put yourself in a lower frequency location, but you're not going to interact with, say, McDonald's. Because that's another thing that we do. We raise our frequency, and it's like those old paradigms and those old items it was okay when my density was there. Like it was okay to eat McDonald's when I was in high school, 20 something years ago. That was okay, because that's where my consciousness was. And at the time that was wonderful. But now that I'm on the spiritual path to evolution, it's not okay, because the frequency is no longer in alignment. This is only one example. We do this naturally. We know we do this naturally. Your body will also start to reject things. And so we take a look, unfortunately, but take a look at people who get sober. And then all of a sudden they may relapse maybe a year or two later. It affects them. Sometimes they die. And so that happens because the frequency match is not coherent. If we went and we ate McDonald's right now, we would get sick. This is how the reality works. So just bringing our awareness to that. We always want to do things that are in alignment with our highest and best, so that we push the density level up higher and higher. Sometimes that also means diving into the darkness. Sometimes that means it's okay to have a day staying in bed, right? We're human. We have these emotions. We have all of these traumas that we have to sort through. We have things that trigger us. We have, what is it called? And Starman, he's laughing. He's like, it doesn't matter. It's Klingon mode activated. Is that's what they call me, right? When I get upset, he's like, oh, she's gone Klingon mode. It's okay, right? This is what we do, because we get upset. It's part of being alive. It's part of being human. And so when we do this, they're all giggling. I can hear them. When we do this, though, it's amazing, because it allows us to be more patient with ourselves, more compassionate with ourselves. And we really do give ourselves permission to feel whatever way that our biological form wants us to feel. What does that mean? If your body wants you to feel anxiety, there's a couple things that we can do, yes, but let's say the body just wants to feel it. Sometimes we have to just get through it. Sometimes we have to just be at peace with the emotions that are coming up. And that's okay too. Now, when we start to be okay and we give ourselves grace and compassion, it really unlocks the door to healing, because then you're telling the body, it's okay for you to feel this way. It's okay. I'm going to help you to get through it. So now you're becoming the cheerleader of your body. When you tell your body, it's okay, because whatever it takes to heal you is that's what we're going to do. We're going to do it together. And we're going to make it so that it's as easy and gracefully as possible. It doesn't matter if it's not true. It doesn't matter if you go through a hard time. You keep telling the body that, because it will eventually change the magnetism. The body will start to go through a release process. And then all of a sudden, you start to manifest things that heal you. Now, what that looks like is very interesting, because the universe may put you in alignment with, say, a chiropractor. Then the universe may make it so you're on a subway train and you run into somebody. There's a chiropractor guy on TikTok, and he walks around the earth, and then he does alignments on people in a pool or wherever he is in the airport and such. And people are like becoming spontaneously healed of like seizures, because this man is walking around adjusting people's bodies. So when you put yourself in alignment to heal your body, the right people, places, and things are going to just magically show up. And that is because you're raising your frequency and you are focused on healing. So whatever it is that needs to heal in your life, that's where your focus should automatically go. Whatever hurts on your body, whatever hurts in your heart from, all the experiences that we've gone through, that's where we place the focus and attention first. Whatever hurts the most. And so the star people always say, if you break a bone, just as an example, we usually on Earth, we put it in a cast and we ignore it. We don't want to see it. It's broke. That's it. But they're saying that that's wrong. What we want to do is we want to place the most amount of focus and attention on it until it's healed. Now, the focus and attention can be simple. We could take a crystal We could wishy it over the arm. I love and bless your body. When you do that, the arm is going to start to heal. And so we know what the power of prayer does. We know what the power of positive words, thoughts, and manifestations does as well. If we talk to a plant and we tell the plant we love the plant, that plant is going to grow 10 times the size. Well, the same exact thing happens inside of your body. So when you tell your body you are safe, you are loved, you are protected, I will protect you. I will be your hero. I will be your cheerleader. I will be whatever you need me to be to get you to the next level. That's who we are to become to our bodies. I'm my best friend of my body. And then if my body doesn't like something I'm doing, it's going to give me a sign or a signal, whether it be a feeling, an emotion, whether it be a gurgling inside of my stomach. Hey, I didn't like whatever you just fed me. Can you please change it? And okay, so you didn't like this. I'm aware of your signs and synchronicities now. That's a form of two-way communication with the body. When we start to cultivate that, that's really when the extrasensory abilities of coming inside the physical form are activated. Because now you can ask, what color is this? And the body's going to respond. And you're going to feel it. You can ask each one of your organs, are you happy? Right? You go into your kidneys, are you happy? Do you need anything from me? You allow the higher self to give you the knowledge that you need, but the kidneys are going to tell you. And if your kidneys are not happy, you may even feel the kidneys. You may feel the location. You can go into the heart. Is the heart happy? Are you pumping correctly? How is my blood pressure? You can feel into the nervous system. Who knew? Who knew that you can close your eyes and you can feel into your nervous system? It feels like a bunch of things over here, and it goes straight down the entire body, and you can feel it. You just close your eyes and you just imagine it. And then all of a sudden it activates and you feel it. You can feel into the fluid systems. That's your blood pressure. But it's not blood pressure. The star people are saying it's your entire circulation system. Now, why would we want to feel into these systems? Well, let's say your fight or flight systems are turned on and you have anxiety. So you need to feel, what does the nervous system feel like? Now just imagine, what does the nervous system feel like when it's at peace and it's calm? Your nervous system is going to turn off, not really turn off. It's going to calm itself. And then all of a sudden your entire body is going to feel calm. Your nervous system is electrical in its nature. Your water or fluid systems are magnetic in its nature, because that fluid has to go through the heart, and the heart controls your emotion grids. Your nervous system, it controls the electrical, which is where the brain waves are. The brain waves are electrical in their nature. So when we start to put these two systems together and we start to recognize, I could go into the nervous system. I could see all the electrical systems. I could also download into the water system. I can encode different emotions into the heart, which then in turn, it starts to circulate inside all of the fluid inside of the body. And this isn't even talking about the cells. Now, each cell itself has a vortex inside of it. It kind of resembles a black hole. So when we start to dive into the cells itself, this is how we're also able to look into parallel realities and different universes, because we're able to take the conscious focus and attention, and you can focus on a single cell, or you could focus on the whole body and all of the cells. It doesn't really matter. But you're able to pull the consciousness through that vortex in the center of the cell, and then all of a sudden you're staring at a different sun on a different planet, even if it only happens for a split second. We are multi-dimensional in our nature. Being multi-dimensional means we are here in this dimension. A dimension is different than a density. The dimensions, if you just imagine for one moment, let me take a sip.
You are answering all of my questions on my paper.
The star people
yeah. I wanted to ask about swearing. Why do I need to stop swearing? You got that. What is the difference between the density and dimensions? You got that. Let's go.
They can see you have a rep, and he's like standing over your shoulder, and he's looking at your paper, so they know.
Yeah.
So much fun. So, okay. When we look at dimensions, so just take for 1 second, if we looked at a photo projector or an old movie projector, he's showing me, you have different pictures, and it goes 1 picture, 2 pictures, 3 pictures, and then you're the light shining through the picture, which is giving you the perception of being here in this reality. That's a dimension. Now, some people also see it as a different dimension. Is I see from my eyes, that's my dimension. You see from your eyes, you're in a different dimension. That's correct too. Now, but what it also is, it goes to infinity and infinity this way. So when you start to switch the dimensions, now just imagine for 1 second, because they're drawing my attention to Star Wars. Now, in one of the movies, Star Wars, the girl, she went and she looked into a mirror reflection of herself, and she saw all the different potentials. This is in a bunch of different movies. It's not just one. They encode the truth in the movies because it's a reflection of the knowledge that you need in the now moment, whatever you have an attunement to absorb into. But it's in the movies so that it's hitting the consciousness slipstream of all of us. Now, when we start to recognize there are different potentials. So if I go left, that's a different dimension compared to if I go right. Now, when we start to realize this, multidimensionality means that we can pull the consciousness back and we can shift into one of the different dimensions. Some of the dimensions, the color spectrum is completely off. Now, anyone who's ever done any type of psychedelics, I personally have not, but they always tell us they've seen sacred geometric images and it was different colorings. And so that's because they're tuning into different dimensional realities. Now, we also have the lucid realms, the dreamtime realms. All of these different realms, they're different dimensions. Some of the dreamtime realms, the star people are saying, are also at different density levels. And he's saying that is because when you raise your density, it's going to shift the pictures that flow. So the different dimensions are controlled by the density. He's saying the different dimensions, your access is granted depending on your density level. So imagine a picture spectrum of the heavens. Now, all of a sudden, your full multidimensional abilities are fully activated when you tune into 5D frequencies. That's because you've taken your consciousness and you've shifted out. Now you can pick and choose what image you wish to cast as your simulation. That's how the process works. However, we have to be able to fully control the internal circumstances. The internal circumstances is, how does my body feel? How does my mind feel? What can I do to release any emotions that are imprinted inside of me? All of the emotions that are imprinted inside of us, it comes from trauma. The happy emotions, leave them there. It doesn't hurt us. Those are fine. Ancestral karma, it goes 7 generations back. So your mother's 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 mother, she fell down the stairs and she imprinted herself. Now, all of a sudden, it goes through the generations. So if you have an attunement into that emotion, you turn on the genetics because it's all imprinted in the genetics. And then all of a sudden, you're falling down the stairs because it's encoded in the ancestral karma. That's how this works. Your higher self and all star seeds, we came here programmed from the higher self, which was us, before coming down here, to automatically turn on some of these programs so that we would manifest whatever destruction that we walk through in our life. We did this on purpose so that for the family unit that we were manifest into, we would go and clean all of the ancestral karma, thus allowing the human consciousness grid for that family unit to grow and evolve more rapidly. Yes.
Wow, my goodness. Thank you for explaining all of that too. And
absolutely.
We were talking earlier about movements. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about the sacred geometry? We both do this, the heart vortex. Last night from the eclipse, I got a movement that was like this.
Oh, TikTok is in the way. Hold on. Go ahead, do it again.
Okay, this.
Your video's frozen.
Oh, no.
It won't show me. Sorry, I tried.
Okay, that's all right. Okay. So basically our hand movements and the movements of our body, I have seen work in my own life. Yes. And I've just been experimenting and trying. And of course, am I crazy? Question, right? But it has taken me years to do all of this shadow work, and it's never completely finished to heal, but we just get better and better and lighter and lighter.
I don't say that at all, because that turns into a manifestation. And so even if it's not done, even if I still have things to work on, I'm like, my shadow work is done. I keep saying it over and over again, even if it's to myself, because it's going to change my magnetism and it's going to help and assist me to release the shadow work that does need to be cleared. That's a positive word. And so, but I walk around, like if you guys hung out with me all day, you would hear me say this. All these affirmations, like even if I feel crummy, sick, and tired, I'm like, I feel amazing. But then I go, Usa, Amen. Or I go, Amen, Usa, Usa, Usa. Amen means I send it to the sun for manifestation. And Usa means it is done. That's a martial arts term that we use. Now, when we say this, the people around us, they know, oh, okay, so that's her manifestation. This way they know I could be looking like I'm sick and I'm still not going to speak that into the simulation, because just speaking the words, it imprints your energy field. And you don't want that type of magnetism inside of your energetic grids, because it starts a process of manifesting. If you've ever gotten sick, I used to work in the restaurant world. Way back when you were sick didn't mean anything. You had to get up and still go. And so you used to go and you used to put on that outfit, and then all of a sudden your cold went right out the window because you didn't have time for it. Right? It's a manifestation.
True.
That's it. It's like, bam, you're not sick anymore. You don't have time. Get to work. And when you do that, you literally don't feel sick until you get in the car and you go home. And then it's like, whoosh, it comes back. It's an emotion.
Right.
Feeling sick is an emotion. So being in pain is an emotion. When we start to raise our biological frequencies, all of that stuff disappears. It's the same thing, because if you're in a higher density, you're having fun. You're happy and excited. Now, just imagine if you feel tired or lazy, and then all of a sudden you get to go and do something that it brings you joy and excitement. That tired and lazy feeling, it's you left it at the door. It doesn't count anymore, because it's not what you're holding in the now moment.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
I love that. And, you mentioned martial artists in here too. So we have only covered 1, 2, 3, 4. We're in the 5th paragraph here of your book. Like, that's how much information is in here. So talking about an ascension guide, it says they belong in nature, living holistically in tune with the plant kingdom. They have the wildest of imaginations and may often be found deep in daydream. This is also how they shift timelines for the collective as a whole. And this part, many of them have lived past lives as shamans or even martial artists. So I'd love to know about the martial artist part up there with shamans.
Yes. Well, martial arts, when you really get deep into it, it changes your zone of focus. And so your zone of focus, when you get, it's like, you have to have a really good instructor, but some of them teach you different breath works, and they get you so you can slow time and space while you're doing the movements. So it absolutely is amazing, because it's a dance of fluidity. It's not only martial artists, that's what I have an attunement to, but it is also in people who dance. It's in people who paint. It's in people who get into the zone of focus. All of these different, because it's all in art. Culinary arts, baking and pastry arts, anyone who's getting into that zone of focus, who's able to start to control and manipulate time and space, those people, and that is how they craft their ability. Anyone, and we can all do this. We do the zone of focus when we're driving in a car. We just don't realize we're doing it. But the difference between driving a car is you can be in that zone of focus and you can be angry. When you're doing something that you enjoy doing, you're doing it because of love. And it's really
a form of meditation, right?
Oh, yes. It's a form of meditation.
I think you called it movement meditation or something like that. Movement meditation. And I thought, that opens up so much as long as you're in the 0 point frequency.
It's just like what you were saying, because when we take mudras, when you stick your fingers and you are connecting the circuits, now each tooth is a circuit breaker. Each one of your fingers is a circuit breaker for your electrical systems. This is how we energetically cast, is with our fingers. This is okay too. Each one of the fingers also represents an aspect of your simulation. So the pinkies represent your kids. The right-hand side is your masculine energetics. The left-hand side is your feminine energetics. So the masculine, this is going to be your son. The ring finger is always your partner. One of them is you in the partnership. One of them is your partner, depending on which hand it is. The middle finger, we always recognize as being the self. The pointer finger is the brothers and sisters that you have, including step sisters or sister-in-laws, things of that. Or it's a sister, but the right one is the males. And then the thumbs are your parents. So when we start to recognize, you could take your fingers, and we have something called a star field. This is your life experiential field, which allows for a range of attachments to latch through that field. Attachments can be lower vibrational entities or beings, which trigger different lower vibrational experientials. But it may also be angels, because angels go through here. This is how the plasma system works. When we start taking our fingers and we start touching into the space outside of the body, we can touch into different electrical circuits. It is the same way that we have the meridians and the ley lines inside of the physical form. We have this meridian ley line system in the outside field. You can start to feel it. It's the same way that we can start to feel the energy inside of our hands by doing this. When we amplify our energetic grids, we'll start to feel it further and further and further. That's great. But what I'm telling you is there's electricity inside of your hands. When you place it on the outside grid, you can feel it. Each aspect of the outer grids is directly connected into one of the chakra systems. And then it allows access into different organs and different body locations. You can start to feel when different things have imbalances or blockages. Many times when we see people doing Qigong, what are they doing? They're generating a Qi ball. They're raising it. They are projecting it into the space outside of their body. And they do this because they are healing the entire energetic grid complex, which is the entire field. There's different modalities to heal it. Yoga is wonderful because you're healing inside of the physical form when you do the stretches. Right? Because the energy grid goes from the inside to the outside. So the yoga would be stretching the body, is moving the fluid as well as the electrical systems that star people are saying. The outside of the body is touching into the grid complex.
That is amazing. So a story about me is that I just started doing these things automatically. And I'm not even sure when it happened. But when you talk about we were encoded, most of us starseeds were encoded when we were born, that's what I kind of think of, because I never thought of myself up until the last year or so as being spiritual or gifted. And now I understand that we're all gifted in this way, but some of us need it. I think it comes automatically or naturally, and others need to help to remember.
Yes. We all have the gifts because we all have attunements to different things. And so the way that the extrasensory abilities was portrayed to me, it was kind of like we have 365 senses. Some are in the dream realm or the lucid realms, remote viewing. That's another form of it. Some are in the physical. So your sense of magnetism can determine what the weather patterning is going to look like. We have the sense of direction, north, south, east, west, is also controlled by your magnetite and hematite crystals, which are inside the brain hemisphere. Okay. We also have the time and space ability, which is controlled directly by the heart chakra pulse and your flicker ratio, the star people are saying, which allows access into the perception of trauma coding. So if trauma is going to happen, many times the frequency of time and space slows, which allows you to see as if time and space slows down, allowing a further perception of the entire trauma as it is happening, because that is done by design. Whenever you start to see time slow or everything get really, really quiet, then it's time to drop into the heart chakra and send as much love and light into the simulation as possible, because it's going to allow a higher frequency to take over that trauma encoding, and it's going to start to raise the potentials. So your potentials you want to be of love and light, you want them to be higher density. When you cast love and light outward, it's going to allow higher frequencies to come. I just did this with my friend in New York over the weekend. And so this is what we do on our weekends. It's so much fun.
I'm coming down there.
We sat there and she had a mark on her wall. And I was like, let's see if we can instantaneously manifest the mark to be gone. And so we sat there and we made triangle shapes, and we imagined sending a vortex energetic of love through the heart chakras. And so we did the wall. Yep. And of course, the mark was still there, but we were happy because while you're in the zone of focus, the mark disappears. And I was like, we healed it. And I looked at her and I was like, even if we didn't physically heal the mark instantaneously, I said the energetics of that mark have just been healed. I know it. So I was like, now you kick back and you just know that the wall's healed. One way, shape, or form, that mark is going to be healed. Then all of a sudden, the universe started putting things together. So we have a person coming to heal the wall. And it's like, wow. But the most interesting part is that we had a third friend come over the next day after doing this. She sat down on the sofa and she looked at the wall and she was like, what's different? She's like, it looks lighter. Yeah. So she was able to see that wall's frequency had been raised. So that's how powerful we are. Yeah. We have to do it to the entire house. Right. So we have to get our friends together and do things like this and bless the entire house and just see what happens. That was only a 5-minute meditation, but it made a significant difference.
Yeah. We are powerful. We are vortexes.
Yes.
We are huge vortexes. And then we can tap into these smaller ones or bigger ones. Right.
Yeah. So, and the earth has vortexes. So we can go to places like Sedona and we can tap into vortexes. Well, my friend, the same friend who owns a house, she showed me a tree, and that tree had spiraled in a clockwise rotation. Whenever we see a clockwise rotation spiral in a tree, it means that the vortex is very, very strong there. And so I told her, I said, we got to come back with a blanket and sit next to this tree on your neighbor's lawn and do a meditation, because there's a vortex there. I've also posted pictures over the summer. I found a mushroom ring. And so the mushroom rings, it's circular, and you stand inside of it and you do a meditation with your feet on the earth, because that's a vortex. That's the reason why the mushrooms grow in a ring. It could also be a grass ring, my starman's saying. It's a ring, and you'll see it. It could look like a big circle patch of really thick grass. That's a vortex under there. So that's we want to be aware, because then we stop, we do our meditations there.
Oh, wonderful. I thought that was where a tree was cut down or something.
No, not necessarily. It's a vortex energetic. Inside all of the trees, we see levity. Levity is Mother Earth taking all of the water, pushing it up through a vortex. So that's how the water gets to the top of the tree. It is not suction. It is not sucking up. It is not anti-gravity. It is levitation. The earth is pushing that water with a vortex spin. Now, they've taken some trees before and they've went to cut it down, and it's like a flood comes out of the tree. That would be impossible if they were sucking it up. That is coming as a push. This is the same vortex energetic that we see in our springs. And so the springs is Mother Earth pushing that water up for us. Now, there's certain stories in the Bibles which speak about generating a spring. And so what is a vortex? A vortex is a magnetic field. And so in time, we are the children of light, and each and every one of us are going to be able to spontaneously change or modify the magnetism of Mother Earth to such a degree in which we will be able to spontaneously manifest a spring. This is very simple matter manipulation. Yes.
Beautiful. It doesn't sound very simple now, but I'm grateful that it sounds possible to me, that I've grown and opened myself up.
Yes.
You know, and I don't live in fear anymore. You know, how many of us live in fear all the time? So how can you feel your body? How can you understand about vortexes? How can you trust some chiropractor on your vacation that might save your life, but you're too afraid?
Yeah. You have to release the fear. The fear is what changes your manifestations. So the second that you have a fear, that fear is always going to manifest. So it's going to imprint you and start a cycle, repeat, and come over and over and over again. So when you start to really remove the fears, do the shadow works, release all the density, then all of a sudden it allows you to be in the right place at the right time. I personally see this in my life. I see the universe taking me and moving me to another location. And then the second I leave the first location, a fight broke out. And little things, not like a big fight, but like little things. And it's like, wow, I missed all the chaos again. Yes. And it's like, my intuition would just go off, and it's like, you know, go get a nice cold drink and go down by the beach and watch your sunset. And that's what I would be doing while everyone else is having the chaos. So when we start really coming inside and just shining the love and the light, the universe is going to recalculate your simulation so that you only manifest what you were in alignment to manifest. And that is love and light. if you are at the higher frequency. Now, once again, that doesn't mean that we don't dive into the darkness, because there are some days when it's like, wow, we have to do the shadow work. And my star people, they walk me through my shadow work, and it's like, okay, this is what we're doing today. And so it's always on those days I'm like, no lives, guys, right? But we get through it. When we have the solar shifts, like the eclipses come in, or we have a full moon come in. And so it's like, this is the perfect time to release and to really dive in deep and to see you can be imprinted from birth, from in the womb. All of us have all that memory stored. That's not even including the ancestral karma. So when we release all of the trauma imprints, it allows us to activate the rainbow body of light fully. That includes any physical attachments to items in the physical reality. Most of the times those attachments are things like alcohol, cigarettes, the things that keep us very physically focused. It can be a food like chocolate, that's fine too, coffee. So we have to release all of the attachments to the physical realm. Also, coming into a place of neutrality is very important as well, because when we come into a place of neutrality, even releasing people, that doesn't mean that you're not going to talk to your family. That just means that you're okay with your family having their own experience in their own simulation. That releases your energy field. It releases a resistance, which then in turn allows you to manifest them going through the wake up process earlier. So let's say, for an example, you woke up, and star people, like, we really don't like to use that term because it's just a brick of consciousness in your perception. Okay. Just imagine that you went through raising your frequency and coming into awareness of all the spiritual knowledge, but your family members, maybe they haven't. And you're getting all emotional because they are not awake yet. And so when you release resistance, it's okay for them to not be metaphysically aware. That's okay too. When you come inside and you're just at peace with the way that everything is right now, in the now moment, the good, the bad, the ugly, I'm okay with it all. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to shine bright, and I'm going to cast my love at my civilization ring, which is the whole world. I'm going to cast my love at my location ring, which is my location that I'm in. And I'm going to cast my love at my house, my body, and my life. I'm not going to focus on negativity. So anything that's happening in the news, I turn it off. If anything does find me, because we don't live under a rock, we're on social media. If something finds me and now I see it, then it's my responsibility, because that's a call to service. My responsibility would be to send it love and light and to hold neutrality. Neutrality means the source frequency manifested that chaos in this reality. It's going to benefit the entire globe in some way, shape, or form. It is not my job to judge that. It is my job to send it love and hold space for it, and hold space for all the people going through that experience. And what that looks like is, it's okay for them to have their own experience, and it's okay for me to send them love and light. That's what that looks like. This way, I don't lower my frequency focusing on fear, right? Because that fear, some people, when you focus on the fear, it really, it expands it times 1,000. And so I noticed that whatever I focus on, especially in the fear, it's like, it's all over the place. And then it's like, oh, I'm manifesting this, I have to stop. Right.
Yeah.
So now
and you catch it faster and faster. Yeah. At least now I'm aware, and I can say, oh, this is stinking thinking, this is not what I want to be doing. But before, I don't even think that I knew that I was in a fear space or an anxiety space. This was just how it was. And this is how so many other people are, just nervous and afraid, and
it's a baby step process, and that's
how long did it take you? How long did it take you to really? Because for me, it was years.
In 2019, I was in my dark night of the soul. So I went through an entire transformation in 2019, where I went from living the life of a cripple, which my entire life was crippled, all of it, all aspects of it. It was what it is. It is my darkness. And then I went through, in 2.5 weeks, I had healed all of my pain. And then I started going through the process of releasing. So I had to release the car. I had to release, people had to go. The universe put me in solitary, and I used to walk around saying, I'm in solitary confinement, right? And
yes,
years. Yeah. years and years. It was, oh, I'm all alone. No one wants to hear me talk. And so that was like, I would talk like this. And so imagine talking like this. And this is all I want to talk about all day, every day. And imagine talking to like your pizza shop man. And he's like, that one's crazy, right?
Right.
What do you do? I still talk to them though. I don't shut up.
They can walk away.
They want me to talk. They're like, I understand you now. So much fun.
You give a lot of information. And I think, talking about, you're not saying, and the star people are not saying to spiritually bypass anything. They're not saying keep it love and light, keep it positive, and just ignore your feelings. They're just saying, if you need to do this, if you need to cry all day and be in bed all day, do that.
Do that.
But don't get stuck there. Really be in tune to yourself and raise your frequency after you do the shadow work.
Yes. And anyone who really, if you do get stuck there, because I've been there too, I lived there for 12 years, right? And if you do get stuck there, start throwing yourself as uncomfortable as it is in the beginning. Put yourself into an ice bath. And so you just start with cold water. It shocks the system. It starts to turn down, or, it starts to calm the nervous system. And so your depression or all these thoughts are toxic. When you start to calm down the nervous system, it starts to calm down your thoughts. The first time I did it with only tap water. It was cold. I had to lay in my bed for like an hour. I was like, I'm freezing. This is not worth it.
Yeah.
Now I do.
I would really love to talk about that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the ice baths, because I feel like when you say, okay, it calms down the nervous system, I feel like it's kind of like, oh, my finger hurts because there's a sliver in it. Oh, well, stop thinking about the sliver in your finger. We'll cut off your arm, right? And it's just something that's worse. So I'm like, okay, is that ice bath just making me forget?
No. It definitely
do that, because I don't understand it.
Well, it's based on the work of Wim Hof. And so that man, in my eyes, he's a genius, because he was the first one to go climb a mountain in a pair of shorts and flip-flops or whatever he did. And so, but what he did was he did this breath work, and then he put himself in ice water. Now, let me tell you from personal experience, when you put yourself in ice water, what your consciousness is doing is you are telling your body you are safe to activate your fight or flight systems. Now, all of the extrasensory abilities are fully controlled by your fight or flight systems. The star people are correcting. They're saying many are controlled by the fight or flight systems. Many are controlled by the internal circumstances, which is meditation. So there's different ranges to those abilities. So he's correcting me. Thank you. And now what he's saying is, when you start to activate your fight or flight systems, your body will activate spontaneously whatever ability you need to save your life. So if you are let's say you were on an ice lake and you fell through, and you can't breathe, the fight or flight systems activate, and it activates extra strength to the body so that you are able to break the ice and climb out. Many times, if you put us in water, we're not going to be able to climb up on the dock unless there isn't a ladder, right? Let's face it.
Yeah. That's
the second that there's like a gopher or something trying to nibble your butt, you're up on that deck quicker than you could have thought. And that's because your fight or flight systems activates the superhuman strength that gets you up. This is how the body works. It's really funny. So that happened to me with the gopher.
That's a real life story.
It's a real story. I fell over in a kayak. It was hilarious.
Okay, because it just seemed like I can do the salt baths. I can do all of that. I can do the mushroom tea. I can do drinking lots of water, but the ice bath, I'm like, you got to tell me it's worth it, right? Yeah, and so the explanation makes sense to me.
It's worth it. It's worth it, because if you wanted to train your circulation improves. And so I had experienced, I do not currently have, I have in my past experienced something called Raynaud's disease. Raynaud's disease is when your fingers start to turn white, and there's multiple reasons. I had identified something in my past which was causing it, but I noticed that from coming in and out of the ice baths, my circulation has improved. I could tell, I could feel it. And so that's only your circulation. Now, just imagine for 1 second, your magnetism is controlled by your water, by your salt, because the salt is adding the voltage into all the cells, but your emotions is controlled by the heart and your circulation. So imagine you're doing something to increase your circulation, and now all of a sudden, if you're having a love-based thought, you need the water to get down into the soles of the feet. You need all that circulation down there, because when you are grounded and connected into the earth and you are casting a certain frequency through the soles of the feet, it actually allows you to change the location coding very easily. So what does that look like? Just imagine, I have to explain to you the flicker rate, because he's showing me she doesn't really know the flicker rate. So your flicker rate is, just imagine you're seeing the wall, all the stuff in front of you, and it's a picture with a picture behind it and a picture behind it, and it's flickering like this. This is your flicker rate. This is how your perception is in the physical reality. Now, when you are fully having extra circulation, or it's going full throttle, he's showing me, because you're training the circulatory system by activating your fight or flight systems. It's going to allow whatever emotion that you are resonating in the now moment access into all of the cells, because your circulation is flowing stronger. Then all of a sudden, that emotion, you can cast it out the soles of the feet directly into Mother Earth. Let's say you needed a herbal remedy, or he's showing me a plant, any plant, and you are barefoot walking in the forest. Now you've been training, so now your circulation is much, much better. It's going to allow you to cast a magnetism down into Mother Earth. She receives that magnetism instantaneously, and as you're walking, she changes your flicker ratio, so it shifts you into a parallel reality in which your cure is magically along your path. This happens all the time. We're just unaware that it happens.
I haven't been able to describe it. You're describing things right now that have been happening to me in real time that I wouldn't otherwise believe and couldn't explain. Yes. You are explaining them.
Yes, because this is the way the simulation works. This is how it works. It's genius. Yeah. If I was to build a simulation, this is how I would build it. It's like, we don't know we're in a simulation, but yet we're doing the simulation nonstop. And it's like when we start to improve our body and the circulation, and not only that, but we start to really put the proper nutrition in. That's a baby step process in itself. But when we start to do things like balancing the pH, it allows more energetics, more voltage to come into place. Your voltage is how you cast. So let's say, for an example, love is an emotion. So I love and I bless you, crystal. The thought of the crystal is what generates your chi energetic systems to cast into the crystal. So, but you have to use an emotion. So you have to use your emotions and your thoughts to energetically cast. We do this naturally. Think about when someone you haven't seen in a while and they give you a heart-to-heart hug. They are casting light ions at you. We know about energetic cords, because an energetic cord happens the second you have an emotion with another person. This, we can see it in certain human-based technologies, can show us that there is an ethereal or light ion cord between both people. When you break up with someone, let's say you have an old boyfriend, you have to continuously break the cords, because the thoughts, feelings, and emotions are still coming at you. This is how the telepathy works. If you anger someone, and I've done this by asking nicely someone to just not curse in front of my presence, they got angry. I felt their thoughts, feelings, and emotions for a good hour and a half until I started cutting the cord. And sometimes you have to cut it more than once. You have to cut it, and then you have to cut it again and cut it again and keep cutting it, because the more they think about you, they're generating, the cord comes right back, because they're casting at you. Now, the star people know with their telepathy, the second that their name enters your mind, there's an energy cord and they become aware. So they take it very seriously that you have to watch and maintain your thoughts, because the second that you think about someone, the telepathy becomes activated. This is another reason why our name is powerful, because when people truly step into their psionic or telepathic abilities, the second that they have the thought of us, it generates this energetic cord. That energetic cord allows for telepathy to come. So if people are thinking positive thoughts, positive feelings, and emotions, you are getting light ions from them. But if they're thinking negatively, they're withdrawing light ions from your field. Now, of course, whenever we do things like an online video, there's more people casting love and blessings than there is withdrawing. So it makes it okay. But it depends on the type of videos you put out.
So the energy vampire description is very real.
Oh, yeah. That we call them narcissists.
Yes. And so when we're talking about energy vampires, narcissists, what they're technically doing is drawing light ions from us.
Yeah.
And what we're getting when we have barefoot healing and when we have the ice baths and hugs and all of that kind of stuff is we're getting them back and we're nourishing ourselves with the light ions.
And that's what self-love is as well. Because when you start to take your hands, I teach people to rub your hands, get them nice and warm because you're getting the energy flowing. And we clap 3 times. That was 4. Who's counting? They're all laughing. And so, but you clap 3 times and then you go over the body. I love and bless your body. You go out in the field outside of the body. I love and bless you, my energy field. What you're doing is you're taking ether and you are casting it because it's coming through your heart. And when you cast it at the field, you cast it towards the body, we start to notice the same exact effect as sending love and light to the plant. We are made of ether. We are made of light ions. We are made of the same physical matter coding grids. It's all part of us. So the way physical matter works, it's a light tubule that comes down the center form and it reflects out in the heart chakra inside of the 4 chambers directly in the center. That's the 0 point. So the source frequency coding, it reflects out circularly. When it comes back in, it makes a sacred geometric snowflake. That sacred geometry makes up the physical items that you see. The snowflake has to be different in order for it to be perceived as either a pen or a crystal. That's the way the system works. Now, because our energy and our independent simulation is coming down from our higher self and reflecting out, that means we have to control the internal circumstances, which then in turn changes this frequency. This frequency is made up of 3 different frequencies in the shape of a triangle, but it spirals down like this, giving the shape or perception of a DNA strand in the energetic grids.
Okay. Can you talk about junk DNA or what they call junk DNA?
Yes.
It's probably not in your vernacular.
No. The junk DNA, junk is how we activate the extrasensory abilities. There's 365 extrasensory abilities in this current density. When we start tuning into 5D frequencies, new light codes open up to humanity, and so there's another range of extrasensory abilities readily available to download.
Beautiful. And do you do that in your sessions?
We do different programming.
Attachments off, but do you do DNA downloads, recalibrations, that kind of stuff?
You should see it in public. Like when I have someone in front of me, it's amazing. I can't even describe it. The only word
it is hard to describe. Okay.
I look at all my friends like, did you see that? It was amazing. So it is. And
go ahead.
They pull information, and it's like some of the stuff that they tell the people in front of me, I'm just like, is that real? And they're like, yes. And they're like, we activated you. So they also had me do this one thing, which was amazing. Because my friend and I went to the float place in Patchogue, and I was getting her to get into the ice bath. So I was like, yes. So they had us both do the Wim Hof breath work. So we did Wim Hof, and then they had us both sit and meditate for a minute. While I was in the meditation, my starman's like, okay, now you're meditating. And it was really fast. He was like, now put your consciousness inside of her body. And so I'm just like pretending to do this. And so I put my consciousness in her body, and I was like, okay, I'm in here. It feels like her body. And he was like, now turn up her thermostat. And I was like, really? And he's like, yes. And I was like, okay. So I just imagined turning up her thermostat, and I imagined this wave of heat washing over her. As I'm doing this, she stops and she looks at me. She's like, I just got hot all of a sudden. I was like, they had me turn up your thermostat. I was like, I didn't know I could do that. Now I know. But of course, the star people are helping me to learn, right? But this is something that we can do to help heal each other. So now just take this, because now what my starman's saying, take this to another degree. Let's say that you know all the emotion codes for how does the body feel when it is healthy. Now you're in front of someone who is ill. So what you could do is you both can do a meditation. One, the healer can cast their consciousness into their biological form, thus making the changes or modifications to the emotions running, allowing those emotions to spontaneously heal or come back into alignment with their higher self. All healing is self-healing. So we may be able to cast inside of another person's, but sometimes if there is a life lesson that person needs to go through, their higher self will shut down the healing and it won't allow it to manifest. That's okay too. Because
I've seen that, but they let us know, or they let that client know.
Yes.
They're very clear.
They do. And it works like this because I had to go through my 12 years, because it was a cycle at 12 I went through, of being a cripple. If anyone would have come along and healed me, I wouldn't be the person I am today. So sometimes the higher self knows she has to go through all this drama and density in order to become who she's meant to become. The darker we go into the darkness, the lighter the light codes we are allowed access into. Because if you have a look at a frequency wave, there's a middle line. The amount of darkness you dive into is equal to the amount of light codes that you can go into. So we have to go in deep and we have to go in dark if we're going to hold the higher frequencies.
Yeah, that ratio makes a lot of sense. And a lot of what people would call karma, right? It's just a balancing. It's another form of balancing. You know, there's so many words to describe these basic things that we're talking about.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's something really interesting about karma because we have this, it's kind of like a law of polarity. And so I have to experience it. Now I have to witness you experience it. That's two.
Yes.
It's the exact opposite. But I have to also hold 3 emotion codes. So I have to go through the darkness. I have to hold neutral. That's 2 emotions. Now I have to heal myself with love and light. So that's 3 different emotions, but I have to see it through my perspective and someone else's. This is how we start to see mirror reflections in other people who surround us. A mirror reflection is always going to be whatever it is that we're focused on. Now we're witnessing the other people focusing on whatever it is that we just went through. So many times people experience this and then they pick up the torch and they help all the people who have gone through what they have gone through.
It does feel very much like I just went through a boot camp, a healer's boot camp, you know? Honestly, I went through a healer's boot camp. And then the only thing that really made sense to me was like, I signed up for this because looking back, you know, hindsight, you're like, this led to this, which led to this, which led to this. And it was not an accident. It was not a coincidence. You know, when people say, well, your choices lead you here, I'm like, it was kind of guided, chosen, then guided.
Yes. People told me when I was a child that I was going to be an author. And I looked at them and I was like, you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. And then people also told me other things that really manifested. So once again, the people around you, they are reflections. And so when you start to notice 2 or 3 or 4 people telling you the same thing, write it down. Because that's always a synchronicity for you. So some people will tell you, oh, you're a healer. So when you start hearing it over and over from different people, it's like, oh, okay, well, the universe is telling me this. Just consider it the universe talking through the actual people. Write it down and then see how it relates to your life or your journey. That's all. You know, a lot of times I tell people to take things with a grain of salt until it expands and unpacks for you so you can see it. But when I start seeing signs and synchronicities, and the signs and synchronicities, I look at not only the numbers on the clock, but I also look at the animals. So if I see 2 or 3 raccoons, I'm going to Google, what is the metaphysical meaning of the raccoon? If I see the deers, I'm Googling. We keep seeing a bald eagle. What is a bald eagle? I keep Googling, right? And every time your internet search history can change the meaning. So it's like the more you start to see it, it's like, keep Googling it because you might get more and more different explanations. It might take you along.
What about if you ask yourself?
What?
So what if you ask yourself, like people say, oh, well, I got this tarot card or I saw 444. What is that? I'm Googling it. I've been saying to people, because this is what I've started to do, is ask your higher self. Yes. Or ask your intuition. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you could do that too. The higher self, your higher self is your cell phone. It's the same exact thing. and we break it.
Okay.
I'm serious. I'm so serious because
Okay.
the artificial intelligence in the phone, it changes your reflection or your Google parameters. Whatever internet browser you're using, it's changed by what you think. Whether you are inputting it in a text in your search bar, it's changing all the potentials that are shown to you. That whole process is guided by the higher self. So whether you're using
Never
a
thought of it
journal,
that way.
notebook, automatic writing, or you're actually Googling it, a lot of times people, they like to see because they know it's real, it's solid, because it's written, someone else knows about it, right? So until we can gain that inner trust in the higher self and the communication, we use things like the phone. It's literally is the black mirror. It's amazing.
Okay. That
Yeah.
makes sense, the higher self, because how many times you're like, I say, oh, I'm looking for something, all of a sudden it pops up on my phone. Oh,
That's
what
right.
am I going to do at the prayer meditation today? I'm looking for something that pops right up on my phone.
Well,
Yeah.
let me tell you something. And McDonald's knows this because they want to use this to advertise. So this is well known in the consciousness field. In
Okay.
the iPhones, there's consciousness driven technology. So what I personally have noticed, will have a thought, just a thought. I will not input it into a text. I will not put it into a phone. I will just have a thought in my mind. And then I will start getting advertisements for it. So when we start to look at the cell phone, like they're reading our brain waves, which is a consciousness driven technology, which is what McDonald's filed to advertise using the cell phone's conscious driven technology. That's okay too. But now we shift our thoughts to a positive polarity and we start engaging with the phone so that it shows us the reflections of the positive polarity. So we use it for a positive for ourselves.
Right. All right. Take my consciousness.
That's a higher self speaking through the phone because it's all
Yeah.
simulation.
I love that. Okay. After our connection, you told me that I now have an Arcturian guide. Can you please tell me the name that I shall ask to connect with?
Yes.
I have
They
a question.
do not want me doing those type of readings, especially not on the live.
Right.
We did this in the
I have a
beginning.
question about Arcturian something though. I have a question about a galactic database. Is there such a thing as a galactic database or an Arcturian database? Can they
Yes,
both?
there's both. But the way that they want me to answer this is it's a quantum codex. So the way that this works is like this. Your energetic complex, the entire field that makes up your biological form, that is your complex. And then it goes up to your higher self. Your Akashic records are stored with the higher self, but it is also fragmented into the DNA systems. When we start to talk about the quantum codex, the quantum codex allows for not only Earth's histories in this reality, in this dimension, and in this density, because it's kind of like circles and squares in a graph piece of paper. They're saying you're here. Just for an example, all the information in your Akashic field is pertaining to you here in this frequency, in this moment, in this density. So on your graph paper, this is the circle and the square that you are currently in alignment to experience, which allows access into that Akashic record, which gives access into the past, present, and future lifetimes. The quantum codex is all of your higher self's parallel realities as well as yours, which is all time and space and all potentiality. It is the quantum field itself. And when the primary individual starts making contact with the quantum field, it shall also allow for multidimensional abilities to become fully activated and engaged with in your simulation. Now, the Arcturians are stepping forward. They also have their Arcturian consciousness grids, which works the same or similar patterning senses, which is it allows them access into this reality, but it's not even this reality because at this level, they're saying it's more quantumized than it is in this simulation only. So it's more of all of the potentials. But then he's saying there's levels higher than that you won't yet understand because you can't see. You can't see into that frequency bandwidth, so you're not going to understand it. But there's levels higher is what he wants to know. Yeah.
Okay. So my guides did try to explain to me how all of these lives are happening right now in this moment. And they showed me like a swirling kind of chime. Have you ever seen the chimes? They go all around like this, and then they go all the way down like a spiral, and then they go inside. So here is like the higher self, and all of these things are coming down.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
I can't see your video. I can't see it, but it spirals down and there's branches. And the branches are actually different timelines that are available to you to manifest because it is very close to your energy signature, the star people are saying. So your energetic signature is kind of like your oscillation, and that controls the flicker rate. But what he's saying right now is your oscillation grants access into different timelines depending on where your magnetism is in the now moment. So making a decision to either turn left or turn right, it changes the magnetism in the now moment, and then you start to manifest according to that timeline. That timeline has a different set of parameters that will be manifest because you are now in alignment with that timeline. But then there's safe spots. A safe spot is similar to what happens when all of your planetary bodies are in alignment, or it's like a circadian? No.
Circadian rhythm?
No, circadian rhythm? Circadian alignment. And so it's when all the planets are in a row, but it faces towards your back. And it's a time of the day. And what he's saying is that is your safe spot. When you have a safe spot, it allows your frequency in the now moment to, it gets sent up to a black hole, and then a frequency of gamma is released, which then in turn allows the safe spot to be stored. When the safe spot is stored, it resets all the timelines that you have available for manifestation. It's kind of like a tiny yuga cycle. So he's showing it. It's a breath in and a breath out, but we go through this process several times a day. He's saying it's 3 times a day to be exact. During certain moments in the time itself, say we take the time 3:33 a.m., the veil between the sleep realms and the physical realms are very thin. That is because of the movements, and he's saying, and the safe spot. So, and it changes your perception. Your perception is not only how you see the physical reality, but it's also how you're manifesting. This is important because when we start to recognize this and we start to change the perception so that we start seeing through the simulation, this becomes something where he's saying you start to set your watch, and all of a sudden it's like at this moment, we all around the entire planet are going to be dropping into meditations because it's an activator. He's saying certain safe spots are sending the gamma pulses, and when we go into meditation, we can suck it in, and then it raises the density and it raises our frequency. He's saying there's a ton of abilities that we can download during the gamma pulses, and that's only one of 3. So one of them is during the nighttime shifts with the veil releasing. One is a gamma pulse, and one is sucks your energy up.
Can we talk about that next time, the gamma pulses?
Sure.
Because that really does sound amazing. Yeah.
Well, and gamma brainwave patterning. And so what he's showing me is we don't see or sense the gamma. It happens naturally, and it's bringing cohesion into the brainwave patterning, which is allowing the higher frequency ranges to be accessed. Now, of course, you want to drop into the meditation while you are absorbing this gamma frequency. When you do this, it allows you to suck more of it in consciously because you're commanding it. There's also different types of meditations in which the ether itself may be commanded to come into the physical body. Now, you can pull the ether directly from the soles of the feet upwards because Mother Earth also assists, but you do not always have to be standing foot to foot on Mother Earth. You could be laying down in a meditation and just visualize pulling this energy in through the soles of the feet, and then the soles of the feet are going to start. He's showing me it's like the nervous system. The nervous system has different triggers here that go down. While they're going down, you pull the energy back up, and it brings it up the physical form. Yes.
Beautiful. I love that. So we don't have to go outside when it's snowy in New England.
And you definitely, you got snow now. We're in the fall.
No, I don't, but I was thinking ahead. All right. So, all right, your book, I haven't even gotten to the second page. The questions that I have asked you or not asked you because you answered beforehand are all on page, literally on page 1. And you did a couple other things too, but pretty much this book is amazing.
Thank you.
So,
I tell people because
yeah,
it can, not to say it's overwhelming, but it's a lot of information.
it is.
So if you do get overwhelmed, just randomly flip to a page every day
Yeah.
and just read that one page. And that's it. And take it like that, because it's always in alignment, and it's always going to be the knowledge or information that you need to get you into the next brick of consciousness.
Right. And the knowledge is light, you said. And I love thinking about that, because sometimes I'm like reading and I'm just learning and learning. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't do anything all day today. I didn't do this, that, or whatever. I'm like, no, I'm just growing my light.
Yes.
Reading this book.
Well, that's how the full moons work. And so the full moon triggers us to release a density. So many times we get triggered. That's why people tend to get a little crazy during the full moons, or there's more accidents or things of that nature. And then what happens is that's releasing density. And so after we release density, your energy field has space for more light. More light is knowledge, but it's not only knowledge as in the sense of opening up a textbook. It could be intuitively drawn. You are able to instantaneously manifest knowledge from the source frequency directly, but we're also taking in food. And so during the last eclipse, my Starman guided me to eat new food that I have never eaten before in my life. And my friends were there to encourage me. And so, but that new food, new texture, new smells, that's all new information. And it opens and expands doorways that we're unaware of, because just imagine for 1 second, you're taking a psychedelic. That psychedelic is having such an effect on your mind that it is giving you new knowledge of the cosmos. Now imagine you're taking in a cacao ceremony, which is chocolate. You're taking in that piece of chocolate, it's opening and expanding your heart, and it starts to have a real biological response to make you feel happy, to make you feel more love. And so we know we are what we eat. So when we are taking in foods, we want to take it from that perception, because new food is new knowledge. And so we want to eat healthy and we want to bless it. It's key.
Yeah. So the experiences. I mean, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. Yes. So I love the information and the knowledge from the star people. They know everything, right? Obviously.
They got you good today.
Yeah.
Answer your questions.
Yeah, they answered all my questions. Yeah. So can we do this again? This was wonderful. And I don't want to take you. You have your Zoom now, I think. Are you doing the Zoom? Like you are just
I think we're gonna skip it tonight, because I usually do a half-hour break in between. So we won't do the shadow work Zoom tonight. We'll try and pick it up Thursday. But Thursday at 7 p.m. is when we go live next. I usually go every Tuesday and every Thursday, 7 p.m. is the live. And then I'll let you guys know if we're doing the shadow work. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Wonderful. So excellent. I guess in that case, can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Okay. So it says that the Ascension Guides make up 7% of the world's population. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So according to personality testing, the 7% of, it is what it is. 7% of the population was encoded to enhance or to raise their biological frequency to such a degree in which it allows for a very, very rapid ascension process. These people are the ascension guides, the very high frequency ones. Their job is to bring knowledge to a very wide circle of hearts, the star people are saying. Because it is their job to do this, that also includes different experiences, such as activating of the extrasensory abilities. In time, that number is going to shift. So personality testing allows for the first wave of, and it's kind of like an ascended master in a sense, where we came from a very high frequency to give a lot of knowledge or to give an example of how to ascend, which then in turn is going to be reflected in the civilization to such a degree in which all beings and all people start to tune into that frequency. Just imagine for 1 second, if someone wants to run a mile and it's never been done in 5 minutes, but then you have one person come along and they do it in 5 minutes, what happens? Now the rest of the population knows it can be done in 5 minutes. So what happens next? Now it's easier for everyone else to run it in 5 minutes because we had that one person prove to us that they can do it. That's what an ascension guide is. They have to walk the walk. They have to fully activate. They bring in a lot of knowledge because that's part of their jobs, is to be a knowledge keeper and to shine that light. You have to be able to explain to people how you're doing it. You can't just go and activate an extrasensory ability and say you could do it too, and then not have the knowledge to give to people on here's how you do it. They have to have the knowledge. So that's some of the things. We look to the spiritual leaders and the guides on the planet, those people, but you have to walk the walk first. And when you walk the walk, then usually it's 99.999% of the times that person will always be of service to the light, of service to the love, and of service to all of humanity, putting everything else second. You have to be of service to the collective with taking boundaries into place, and with taking self-care, and all of that has to come into place as well, because you have to maintain a high frequency range. But you can usually tell who's of service to the collective and who's very open-hearted and loving, caring, kind. A lot of times I
don't know.
Oh, yeah, you could tell. You'll feel it. And so it's
but
very
in
similar.
order to feel it, you have to be sufficiently healed, or you're completely out of whack. That's what I learned. Like, I didn't know.
They have to walk the walk.
Right.
You have to heal. You have to heal, and then you have to know, because the perception of these individuals start to shift. And so when your perception shifts, you don't look at all the people around you like they're just your friends and family. You start seeing them like they are you, literally. And there's no way to break this down. When I look at all the people around me, I know for a solid fact they're a reflection of me. So every word that comes out of their mouth is something that I need to hear in order to help me raise and evolve. And then it's a teaching lesson. It goes both ways. And so when you are of service to everyone, it really allows you to shine love and light, and you don't hold back. And so it can be awkward when you're on the phone with random strangers and you're like, I love you. Right? But do it. And I do it all the time. But what are you doing? You're trailblazing the way to shine bright. And then you'll be surprised how many people will tell you, I love you right back. That's something that we should be saying every day to every person. And it's not said enough. And so make that a mantra, right? And tell all the people that you know, I love you. I love you.
At least I appreciate you is popular. So we're getting close. I appreciate
close.
We're getting close. You know, it's
wonderful.
the same thing. I'll talk to anybody, you know, and I'll just chit chat and whatever. And if they don't want to talk to me, they can move on.
That's okay too.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't want to talk to them.
If they don't want to.
Yeah. But
that's okay. I don't force it upon people, but I'm going to walk around and I'm going to tell people exactly my truth and stay very authentic to who I am and be real. Right. So that people can see, hey, it's okay for me to shine bright, and it's okay for me to be me. And the people who are in alignment, they'll find me. I don't have to go and chase them down.
Yeah. So beautiful.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. And it truly was. It's beautiful when I have a co-host, because it changes the whole frequency of the entire transmission. I love it. So please come back. Do it again.
Okay. Anytime.
Excellent. Okay, guys. So we are going to wrap it up for tonight. I just want to say thank you guys very, very much for coming and enjoying another episode of Starseed Activations. We will be back on Thursday at 7 p.m. There is no shadow work Zoom tonight. We also, here at the Tree of Life organization, we are going to be starting a jacket, hat, and glove drive. And so one of my best friends, she works for a school district, and she has just come into the awareness that there are several children who do not have gloves or hats or the means to get these things. So I am going to be posting up on my Facebook account an address. Anyone who wants to send in jacket and gloves and hats, you could do it. Any size is great. And then we are going to take a video of giving all the stuff to the school. So it'll be nice, and I figured it's something nice to do around the cold seasons. Excellent. So thank you all for coming. And I just would love to say many, many love and blessings. And you have a wonderful night. And thank you very much, Jody, for joining us tonight. It was a blessing and an honor.
Thank you so much, Danielle.
Absolutely. Okay. I have to end one at a time. I usually end this one first. Okay. Let's see. I didn't end. We're still not ending yet.